Hello, welcome to another video tutorial with Kukura Capital. Now in this video tutorial, we're going to be discussing how to start investing in the stock market that's based in South Africa, so our Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and then we're also going to be touching on fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and we're just going to be giving you an overview of how you approach applying and picking stocks. So basically applying this and using it to pick stocks of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. But this is an overview of what we cover in our video tutorial series. Now the video tutorial series we're doing today is an introduction level, so it's not our masterclass. So today we're just doing introduction level, and we'll build up on these skills, and then we'll be doing masterclass. But for today we're not doing masterclass level, it's all introduction stuff. So let's get started. So for this example, we're going to be discussing the Woolworths stock, and then once again you can have a look at our disclaimer. We're not endorsed to do this. We're not giving financial advice. We're not telling you to purchase or buy the stock. We're just using Woolworths as an example because it's a well-known brand in South Africa, a well-known retailer, and it will give you a good overview of how we approach stocks and how you can start and what you should look for, and how we're going to use the skills that we learn in this video tutorial series to pick and choose stocks to purchase and regard as investments. So the disclaimer, we're not telling you to buy or not buy, we're just using this as an example. So Woolworths is a retailer. They sell clothing and they sell food, and they also offer financial services. So this is something we need to consider when you pick any stock. You need to identify what market they're in and what service and products they offer. That's going to allow you to also use this as a foundation to determine whether or not this is going to be a good investment in the long run. So the next thing that we're going to see is what do we want, and we're going to be using fundamental information to decipher the value of the stock. So as I've mentioned, it's in the food market, so we're going to look at other retailers in this market and see how Woolworths compares. So we can compare it to stocks like Pick and Pay stocks, Spar stocks, and see how Woolworths compares in performance to other food retailers. Now they're also in the clothing industry, so we will look at other clothing stores and see once again how Woolworths performance compares to those stocks in other clothing industries and how they perform. So when we talk about performance, we're focusing mainly on P&L. So we'll be looking at how does Woolworths profit. Is it a profitable company? Because the way your stock is going to increase is if the value of this company increases, and the only way a company can increase is if they have an increase in P&L, and that can be because they introduce new products to the market, they have a good value proposition that beats its competition, or simply they are just performing everyone else better, outperforming everyone else, and they have extremely great profits. Now the other thing we're going to be looking at, and this is why I chose Woolworths, is Woolworths offers financial services. Now financial services is always a controversial market. It's the banking, it's the finance industry. So in South Africa, we wrote an article about this, and the link's available in the description box below. We have a very serious debt culture. Now the problem with this debt culture is that we're seeing more and more people becoming insolvent, right? Insolvent means that they have more debts than they do have assets, so they have to write it off. They're becoming insolvent, and we're seeing more people getting debt review. What that means is that people are not able to pay back their debts, and that is going to create a problem for financial services, people who offer loans and personal loans and credit, because they're not going to get paid back, and that's going to lead to a lot of problems, which can in the long term affect the share prices of certain companies. So that's something we definitely have to look at. We have to look at how many people pay back their debts, how many creditors Woolworths actually has, and also we need to look at the overall credit market and how well it's performing. Are South Africans paying debt? And if not, that could be a sign that we should be careful when it comes to investing in companies that offer financial services. Now in terms of the P&L, we're not going to just be looking at last year's profit and loss. We will normally look at the annual reports in 10 years, and when we look at the annual reports, that's going to be a video tutorial series of its own consisting about 5 videos. We look at everything. We look at the management, we look at the the reviews, like the credibility of the company. We look at the profit and loss. We look at how it's either expanded or grown over the 10 years. Growth is what we're looking for. We don't want to see that they've closed stores, that they have less stores, that they've not performed well. That would be an indication that it's not a good investment for our future 10 years. So we also look at the management. That's important. We actually decipher through the management. So that video tutorial series may be longer actually than 5 episodes. And we also look at the credibility and the reputation. So if it's a company that does not have any credibility or good reputation, you don't want to associate yourself there, because scandals may arise later on and then you find that it's affecting your stock price. So we'll look at that, and then also we'll be looking at other theories. We can't look at a stock in isolation. We have to look at the market. Are we in a bearish market? Are we in a bullish market? How is inflation going to play out in the next 10 years in South Africa? What is the political context in South Africa? How is that all going to affect the performance of our stocks? And in South Africa, there's a lot of things we need to consider. We need to consider the politics. Are we seeing economic growth? Are we seeing inflation on the rise? All of these things come into play, and we need to look at what will be the best investment that will be durable during those tough times, if there are tough times to arise. And obviously, if we're in a bullish market, then we want to optimize that to the best of our ability. Now, once we've done our fundamentals, we're going to start looking at the technicals. So that's mainly our chart. Now, the chart is going to be key because it's going to help us identify the tops and the bottom. So ideally, we want to buy when the price is really low and no one is interested, but we know that the stock is going to go up, so we will be able to sell out here. So we'll use indicators like our RSI, we'll draw support and resistance levels, and use these as indicators to identify good positions to buy and enter the market. And then also we will use our technical analysis to find targets and also manage our risk. So what I could say plainly, now obviously this is a very simple course, and then in the masterclass we'll go into more depth of how people really use formulas and calculations to decide whether investment is good or bad. So it does build up, but this is very simple for the everyday person who really just wants to start investing in the stock market. So I'm just gonna, because I know some people will obviously know how to use some calculations and all those wonderful things, but that's not the purpose of this. This is the beginner level, so we're just going to do the basics, and then we'll start building up, and there are formulas you can use to see what your rate of return will be and how risky that particular stock is. So obviously a formula is purely technical, it's not fundamental, where we're looking at the management of the company, the annual reports. We're not using data, we're using fundamentals, the news, the information basically to decide the value of the company. So the next, and obviously in our fundamentals we'll be looking at theories like Dow Theory, value investing. We'll be looking at those principles also to decide whether the company is of value or not. So technicals is our charts and our indicators, and that's what we'll be focusing. So that's what we'll be looking at. We want to be identifying our support and resistance. So that's what is important. So I've already discussed this, is our charts, and then we don't use them in isolation. We put that information all together, and then we come up with the decision on whether we're going to invest or not. And also the benefit of this, now I'm just going to use a quick example, is if we find this is our bottom at, for example, 500 Rand, and we see our target, we expect this price to rise to 600 in the next 10 years. Okay, the next 10 years, what we can know is that for every one share we buy, we expect 100 Rand profit. This will also influence how the number of shares we choose to buy. So it will influence the number of shares we want to buy, and also allow us to manage our risk. If we expect that this is going to increase by 100 Rand, we can have a much higher tolerance for the stock if it starts to dip, because we have a strong inclination that it's going to increase, opposed to if we do our analysis and we think, okay, this stock is only going to go up to maybe 535 in the next 10 years. That would make us reconsider our what amount of risk we can tolerate for this particular stock and how many of these stocks we should buy. So that's also the benefit of technical analysis. So this is just a brief overview on what you can expect, and we're going to be starting with fundamentals, and we're going to be looking at some fundamental analysis theories. So if you want to be the first one to see a new video tutorial, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed, and give us a thumbs up if you also liked our video, notification bell, subscription, and thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.